All right, so we're picking up where we left off with the last lesson. The last lesson, we went over some of the basic functions or purposes of epithelial tissue. And we also went over the following types. We did 1, simple squamous epithelium. 2, simple cuboidal epithelium. 3, simple columnar epithelium. So today we're going to get into pseudo-stratified epithelium, stratified squamous epithelium, and transitional epithelium. So let's go and get into it. Number 4, pseudo-stratified epithelium. Eva, do you recall what the prefix pseudo means? It means fake or false. This has the appearance of being multiple layered, which would indicate stratified, but it isn't. It is one layer. If you were to draw it, it would probably look a little something like this. It really closely resembles columnar. Put a little nucleus inside all of these. Okay, and some of it can be ciliated, and then you can have some that aren't. Now, what I want to do is I want to highlight the ones that are not making it all the way across. You got this one, and this one. Just because they didn't make it across doesn't mean that other cells didn't. When I say across, I mean from the bottom to the top, from the basal surface all the way to the apical surface. These tissues are going to be found mainly in either your, I believe it's your respiratory system or your digestive system. Let me double check that. Nope, your respiratory system or the urinary or the spermatical ducts. So the functions are mainly to secrete mucus and to move mucus along. Guys, mucus is just literally like lubrication. You have mucous membranes in your throat. There's mucous membranes in your reproductive systems, both male and female. Males and females have mucous membranes down there. But when you hear about generally secreting mucus besides the reproductive system, what other system has a lot of lubrication, snot? What would that be? Your respiratory. So as far as location is concerned, it really depends if it's ciliated or not. If it's ciliated, then you're going to find in the upper respiratory tract. The last couple of days I've had just a minor little cold. Don't worry, it's not COVID. I know it's a cold. I've already had COVID. I'm good. But it's the common symptoms. You wake up, your head's kind of throbbing a little bit because you have all that mucus. And then once I sit up or stand up or walk my dog in the morning, it's like it all drains. Classic cold symptoms. And I feel fine other than a mild tickle in my throat. But one of the common things people do when they have a cold, you make a lot of snot. Mucinex, you got to take some of that. And I hope for all of your sakes that you know how to hawk a loogie. Grace, you ever hawked a loogie before? You don't know what a loogie is? Dylan, you know what a loogie is? Yes. Would you mind educating our friend Grace here?
I think it's a bit of snot. It's like kind of like something, right?
Yeah. So what do I mean by when you hawk a loogie?
You gotta get it out.
You got to get it out, Grace. So you want to hear it? Okay, here we go. So let's say I'm walking around, walking my dog, and I feel a bunch of slime just right at the top of my throat. You okay, Melanie? You like you're preparing yourself for something nasty. I'm not going to actually do it because I don't have any stuff built up. But if I felt it, you got to get it out, because when you guys see your own snot, what color should it be when you know that you're healthy, you're not infected? It's clear. And what color would it be when you are? Like green, yellow, brown, just looks gross. And you've heard those wet coughs before. We've all heard it. People in class are like, ooh. Well, here's what it sounds like, Grace. This is going to be all over YouTube, so I hope you're happy. It sounds like this. And then you spit it out. You're basically kind of regurgitating your snot, or you're sucking it out of your sinuses. You're forming in your mouth and you spit it out. Aren't you happy you learned that? I bet it's relieving. You have all that stuff caught in there and you just got to get it out. And you can actually feel the surface of your throat again because it was covered in all that mucus. It's nasty. Well, guys, we have cilia in the lining of our throat, the upper respiratory tract, basically your neck, your pharynx, and your larynx. You have little cilia. And what it does is it tries to catch things like dirt, dander, bacteria, maybe a virus or two. And whenever you get that, it kind of gets caught in your cilia and gets caught in your mucus. And when you have to cough or you have to sneeze, you're getting all that out. I'm sure you've seen people sneeze and it's like their face is on Swiffer mode and just sprays all over the place. You're like, dude, cover your nose, cover your mouth, do the dab sneeze or the dab cough. Don't cough in your hand and then extend your hand to me. You ever been in the food court at a restaurant where someone coughs in their hand and they handle your food? It's disgusting. It's like, nah, I'm good. I don't need you to handle my dinner anymore. If it's non-ciliated, it's going to be in the sperm-carrying ducts in the male anatomy. Yes?
I thought simple columnar epithelium, the non-ciliated.
It's going to be in here too because they're so similar. Okay. Okay. So as you all saw yesterday, the first image that you had, I'll see if I can bring that up. Yep, there it is. So I'll share that on YouTube in just a second. Let's get up here. There it is. This is pseudo-stratified epithelium. You really have to look closely. Can you all see the cilia? My little finger-like projections, the hair-like projections on the top? That's the cilia. So this would likely be from a sample from someone's throat, their upper respiratory tract. All right, only two more to go through. Number 5. We have stratified. What does that mean? Multiple layers. Squamous, what do the cells look like? Squashed epithelium. If you all could please look in your textbook, flip over, I think, to page 122, maybe? What page is that, Grace? 121? All right, turn your books to page 122. There's 2 images of the last 2 tissue types we're doing. On the top of the page, you see stratified squamous epithelium. Stratified squamous, it kind of can resemble cuboidal on the bottom, but as you start to get closer to the top, the cells start to get flatter and flatter and flatter. So this is definitely multiple layers. And if you're conflicted, I don't know if that's cuboidal, I don't know if that's stratified, look at the top. Look at the apical surface. That should tell you everything you need to know. That is definitely flattened cells. These cells function to basically protect underlying tissues from abrasion. Now there's a layer, there's not ciliated. So I'm not going to say ciliated, not ciliated is another type of addition to this. It's called keratin. Keratin is a protein that kind of acts like armor. Your hair in your fingernails is made of dead skin cells. Keratin encases them and protects them. Your hair and your fingernails have a keratin coating. So does a rhino horn. Well, the surface of your skin is also keratinized. So when I'm talking about location, it depends. So before I get to that, let's briefly mention what keratin is. It's a protective protein. The surface of your skin is coated in a layer of keratin. The top layer of your skin is also dead. Those cells are dead. That's why when you exfoliate, you're getting rid of all the dead skin cells, and underneath is alive. That's why if any of you ever had gone to a spa or had your face exfoliated, anybody? Is your face kind of sore after that? Like a little bit red? That's because they just scrubbed off all the dead cells. And so what's showing is living, and you feel that more because they're still alive. So they still have more sense, more nerves. But your keratin coating is dead. So you really don't feel that all that much. It's not like a turtle shell or a vibranium shield, but it's the best we've got when it comes to armor. If I were to take this paper clip and I scratch my hand like this, I'm fine. What if I did this to the inside of my mouth? Would it be a different reaction? Have you guys ever had a Dorito chip rub the roof of your mouth? It hurts for days. Your mouth is also coated with stratified squamous epithelium. So the same cells, the same tissue that's on the roof of your mouth is on your skin. The difference is your skin is keratinized. Your mouth is not. Your mouth is soft and vulnerable. So when we're talking about location, it depends. Are we talking about keratinized or non-keratinized? So we'll do keratinized first. Keratinized stratified squamous epithelium is basically your epidermis. If you don't know what the epidermis is, it's the top layer of skin. It's what we're all looking at when we see you. If it's non-keratinized, remember, this is protecting from abrasion. Your mouth experiences abrasions. You eat food. You put food in your mouth. Some food can hurt a little, like when you rub that Dorito against the roof of your mouth. It hurts for days. So you have your mouth. And what's the name of that tube that you swallow food down that connects your stomach? Your esophagus. And the vagina, because the vagina can experience abrasion either through sex or through childbirth. So that is also stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, finally, last one. It's on the bottom of page 122. This is going to be transitional epithelium. Transitional epithelium kind of looks like cuboidal cells in a way. But I want you guys to notice how I drew this and why I drew it the way I did. If you can look in your textbook, it looks hopefully kind of similar. You see this, all this green area? I did this on purpose. This tissue has the ability to stretch. So based on that function, stretches and permits the descent of urine. What structure would you expect to be composed of transitional epithelium? Eva? Your bladder. And what is your pee hole called? The urethra. The bladder and the urethra. Guys, when your bladder, or excuse me, when your urethra has no urine going through it, it's like airtight. But when it actually has urine passing through it, when you're going to the bathroom, it opens up, it stretches. That's thankfully because of the ability of transitional epithelium. Okay, so we've been through all 6 types of tissues. The last thing I want to go over when it comes to epithelial tissue is glands. So I want to discuss glandular epithelium. No, this is mostly cuboidal tissue, but this is going to be unique to glands. It's not a different one. So I have a general question for you all. Don't be shy. This is kind of a shy class. I want to get over that. What do glands do? I mean, what makes a gland a gland? What does it do, Chris? It secretes. It secretes substances. It doesn't necessarily have to be a hormone. I mean, what do your salivary glands secrete? Saliva. What do your sweat glands secrete? Sweat, right. Some of your glands are hormone glands, others are not. So my next question is, where do glands obtain the ingredients, and I'm using that word loosely, for their secretions? So after school today, Grace is going to go for a long run down Bayshore Boulevard. It's still kind of hot here in Florida. We really don't have the 4 seasons. If you're from New York or somewhere, we don't have autumn for real. I mean, we have like cooler summer, and that's what we call autumn. We don't get leaf changes. We don't get any of that. It's still hurricane season for most of autumn. In fact, it's hurricane season for all of it. But my point is, Grace is going to go out on Bayshore. He's going to get really sweaty. Sweat, as you all know, is made of mostly salt and water. My question is, where did that salt and water come from? Lily? From what? From where? Okay, you're kind of getting on the right track. Why would you say food? There it is. Do we drink water? Of course we do. Do we drink and eat foods with salt? Of course we do. I had Gatorade this morning. That's basically color salt water. We get it in our blood. So when you go running today, after you've had your little nap, you're going to go out for a run and you're going to taste that sweaty water coming from your face. That's basically salt water. The salt in the water is coming from your blood. So my next question would be, how did it get in your blood? Lillian basically said it, you eat it or you drink it. So the answer to this would be from blood. Whether it's growth hormone, whether it's oxytocin, whether it's saliva, your saliva is mostly water too. You probably have trouble making spit when you're dehydrated. There's no water left. Dylan's a relatively tall guy. You're probably amongst the taller half of boys in this school. Now, Dylan, you likely started hitting your growth spurt in middle school, right? Well, your growth, y'all don't need to write this down, came from a hormone called growth hormone. Clever name. It comes from your pituitary, which is in your brain. Your pituitary is going to really make you guys go through puberty. Well, this hormone got its ingredients from blood. How do the ingredients get from the blood? It came from food and drink. So Dylan, I'm sure you are aware of what junk food is. Do you think you would have gotten as tall as you are if you had eaten foods and drinks that did not have nutritional value to them? Probably not. I taught my AP Bio class earlier this morning that matter cannot be created nor destroyed. You can't just create something from nothing. You can't just destroy something and it be completely gone. Things come from an origin and then they go to their next stop. They don't just appear. They don't just disappear. Everything that makes up your bones, your organs, your hormones has to come from somewhere. And when it specifically, in this case, comes from your hormones, when you guys are no longer in your mom, you're on your own, it comes from the food and drink that you eat and drink. If you eat and drink crap, your hormones aren't going to be as great as someone who was eating like better foods with actual phosphorus and sodium and carbon and sulfur and all that other stuff. So if rather than drinking milk or eating your veggies, if you just had soda and licorice your entire middle school career, you would probably be shorter because there's not as much value in that kind of stuff as there is when your grandma is saying, eat your vegetables. There is actually something to that. Okay. There are two types of glands. I'm sure you guys can easily translate at least part of this. First one you've heard of before is called endocrine. What does endo mean? In. And crine means secrete. What do you suppose the opposite of endocrine is? Exocrine. Very good. This means out. Secrete. Now, if I were a student, I'd be like, in or out of what? The answer to that is in or out of blood. Exocrine is in the blood. And did I say that right? Endocrine is in the blood. Exocrine is not in blood. When you guys sweat, the sweat goes on your skin. Is that endocrine or exocrine? When you salivate, you're at the dentist says suction, saliva suction. Is that saliva in your blood? No. So that would also be exocrine. What about adrenaline? Is that in your bloodstream? Yeah, that's endocrine. So when you're endo and exo, it just means in the blood or not in the blood. And the last part for today, for epithelial tissue, is unicellular exocrine glands. How many cells is a unicellular exocrine gland? One cell, of course. There's two types. There's mucus cells. I'm going to try to draw this too. There's better pictures in your textbook. But a mucus cell secretes mucus. Again, really clever naming. And then the other one is called a goblet cell. This accumulates mucus. A goblet is like a type of cup that was very popular back during medieval times. It kind of looks like this. Oh, that's ugly. Let's try it again. You drink out of it. There's a good picture. If you all turn the page to 123, 124, there's a picture of it. I'm going to turn the page. Grace, what page is that? 124, okay. On page 124, there's a picture of a goblet cell. It just kind of looks like a cup. And it looks like this when you're actually looking at tissue. So here's a simple columnar epithelium. This region here, and this region here could be mucus cells, or they could be goblet cells. And you have a lot of these in your mucous membranes, your reproductive system, male and female, your respiratory tract, again, where there's also mucus. Mucus is mainly just meant for lubrication and for catching germs and bacteria and other stuff. All right, so that is it for epithelial tissue. I'm going to stop this video. I'm going to start a new one for the beginning of connective tissue.